and welcome to Digital Transformation and AI for Humans with your host, Amy. In this podcast, we delve into how technology intersects with leadership, innovation, and most importantly, the human spirit. Each episode features visionary leaders who understand that at the heart of success is the human touch, nurturing a winning mindset, fostering emotional intelligence, and building resilient teams. Let's focus on AI and extended reality in building information modeling and virtual design and construction, and discover how to translate technologies into reality. We are going to dive into the real use cases from Kane Group. I'm happy to welcome Gary Cowan from Belfast, Northern Ireland, the United Kingdom. Gary is heading digital construction at Kane Group. He is a Multi Award-Winning BIM Leader, Global BIM and Technology Thought Leader, AI Enthusiast, and STEM Ambassador. Kane Group has a strong heritage in designing, developing, and delivering building service solutions throughout the UK and Ireland. How are you, Gary? So great to have you here today.
Thank you, Emma. I'm good. Thank you for having me back again.
Let's start the conversation and transform not just our technologies, but our ways of thinking and leading. If you are interested in connecting or collaborating, you can find more information in the description. Subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes. Gary, such a great pleasure to have you here. I would like to hear everything about your achievements, about your success stories, about your dreams, experiences, and insights. Tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Oh, it's been quite a long journey now when I actually look back. Almost 20 years now, which is hard to believe, because I still feel like I'm 21 inside, even though I don't look 21 anymore, unfortunately. Oh, there's been so many stories over the years. When I first sort of graduated, it was very much bottom rung of the ladder. My first job was a CAD technician and basically spent almost a year doing two-dimensional drawings for shop fitting and different things, and O&M manuals, which at those days were that was a rite of passage for anyone coming through into the design side. You had to produce the Liber Arch folder with all of the paper documentation of all of the technical requirements of the kit and all of the drawings and stuff. So you would have sat and folded maybe 100 drawings, and that was almost like a rite of passage at the time. But I sort of very quickly got out onto the sites then and decided to go out and try and learn the trade a wee bit more. I didn't really have too much experience in building services and plumbing and heating and all that. So at the time I had kind of dreamt of being a consultant. A design consultant was kind of my first idea when I left university. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to be a very good consultant if I don't really understand how pipes are hung and how ducts go together. So I had the opportunity very early in my career to go out there onto the sites, and I took that opportunity and kind of went out and spent a lot of time on the sites, physically building buildings and learning how it was going together. And it was kind of funny because at the time I was maybe the project manager. I was a very young project manager. I was a project manager about 23 or 24, which is crazy when I think about it now. But at the time I kind of was leading men and women on a site, and I had no experience. I didn't know what I was doing. So I was sitting in the site meetings in the mornings and then go out onto the site and pulling a set of overalls on and going and working alongside the guys and girls on the site to physically learn. I had learned all the theoretical side. I had a degree in design. I was very much paper based. It was all theory and no substance. So I spent about a year or two actually physically working as well as doing my management roles for myself to learn. And that's kind of always been my ethos through my whole life is I'm not afraid of work. I'm not afraid of taking on extra work. And I'm not afraid of going above and beyond for my own benefit and for the benefit of whatever company it is I'm working for at the time. And there was many, many lessons over the years, many failures, don't get me wrong. I'm enjoying success at the moment, but I tell everyone that the mountain that I'm on top of is the snow peak on the very top is the success, and the vast majority of the mountain below my feet is failure. And I look at failure as a lesson. I don't get overly caught up in failure. I try and take the silver lining from every situation that I've been in. So quite a lot of mistakes over the years, clangers as I would call them, missing things, forgetting things, not having things lined up in time. So really the journey to today was just a journey of learning more than anything. I started in Kane Group then around about 2012, where I sort of came on board as the very first BIM technician. At that time, Kane had won a contract in London with the contractor Boygs, and it was the very first job that they actually were contractually required to produce a 3D model. And at that stage, they had a real great CAD technician working for them, Craig, who's a close friend of mine, and he was basically the CAD master. He was brilliant at CAD, but he'd never done Revit, whereas I maybe had a couple of years Revit experience by that point. So I came on board with Craig, and between the two of us, we kind of built this phenomenal BIM team, which is now probably the biggest digital construction team in Northern Ireland, at least. I'm immensely proud of that, but it's been a learning curve for me. I have a degree in mechanical and manufacturing engineering. The BIM didn't exist when I did my degree. I very much was one of the first people to use Revit. I came across it on a project that I was involved in 2009 and instantly fell in love with it, because at that stage I was still drawing 2D polylines and circles and squares. So it absolutely blew my mind that there was a 3D package out there that would let us draw the building. My degree, I had done Solid Edge and SolidWorks, so I had an experience of 3D modeling, but it was for components rather than systems. So it's like the planets aligning. DFMA, Design for Manufacturing Assembly, really is looking at a building like a component. It's like a machine. It has to be designed like a machine with very tight tolerances, and it has to go together. Whenever I first came out, building was a free-for-all. It was first in, first up. Whoever got in first got their services up. And on the early days, I've seen many fisticuffs on site, people fighting over, I was here first, no you, people cutting and damaging other people's work. It was quite a hostile environment. The construction in the early 2000s, whenever I first sort of came on board, and what I've seen was a radical transformation over the years, of skill transfer from the site to the drafts person, really, more than anything. The drafts people who produce these models really have to have an insane amount of knowledge now of how building services go together. Maybe not so much for the architects and structural guys, but certainly for the building services guys and girls. You really almost need to be a pipe fitter and a duct fitter to understand how it goes together, because what you draw ends up being put together on site. Do you know what I mean? So it's been a radical change over the last 20 years. And as I say, it hasn't all been sunshine and rainbows. A lot of it has been late nights, hard work. If you were to ask my wife, she would tell you that, I live and breathe BIM all day, every day. I lie in bed at night and look at videos on YouTube for latest technology. It's kind of how I came across the XR platform that way back in 2017, was from myself being a gamer and playing VR games, and then looking at BIM videos on YouTube. The algorithm kind of threw the Iris VR system to me, and that started the whole technological revolution, really, in Caymans.
That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing this with us. Super impressive. And I agree, it is important to be humble and to highlight as well that all the success stories, they have a price we paid, and there are many failures behind as well. And I believe it applies to any successful person, any successful leader. And I have had many of those as well. But what people usually prefers thinking about is only the bright side of things. However, it is not only white or only black, it is something in between, and a mix of it. But it is amazing that you are where you are, and now you're going to share all that with us. How did the idea of integrating AI and extended reality into BIM and VDC at Kane Group first came about? Was there a specific problem or opportunity that these technologies aimed to address?
As I said before, it was around about 2016, 2017 that I purchased my first VR headset. It was an Oculus Rift, and immediately I was blown away by the technology. I was an 80s kid. We all grew up in the 80s and the 90s with VR, and it was very clunky. It wasn't for the masses. It wasn't certainly for your home use. I remember using a VR headset in the early 90s, and the headset itself actually had to be suspended on a chain because it was so heavy you couldn't actually put it in your head. So the revolutionary technology of the VR headsets and the late 2010s was phenomenal, and I jumped straight onto it. I'm a real geek, tech nerd. I love technology, and I'm a gamer. I've been a gamer all my day, so I started off playing the games and sort of seeing a lot of built-in services and beautiful artistic renderings of buildings, and I sort of thought to myself, "Oh, hold on a minute. If I'm standing looking at this in a game, surely I could use it in my day-to-day job." And I started researching and developing. And as I say in our last podcast, I came across a very early solution that had just literally been put on the market a matter of weeks whenever I found it. And that was the Prospect by a company called RSVR. And it was phenomenal for me. I immediately sought a demonstration of it, and the guys at Aris were great to give me a free demo for an extended period. I asked for a month. You only normally got a week, but I rang them and said, "Look, I'm not going to be able to take this apart in a week. I need a month." And they were very gracious and gave me a month's demo. So initially, it was just my own curiosity more than anything. There was no real need for it. It wasn't in the industry. It was more my own curiosity. I like to take everything apart. As a child, if I ever got bought any sort of presents, instead of playing with them, I actually took them apart. I went and got my dad's tools and screwdrivers, and I actually took them apart. I was more interested in how it worked on the inside than what it did on the outside, and that has applied to everything I've done, even in my adult life. So immediately I got to play with this VR system, and the first model that I ever put in, we were very sort of confident on our models at that stage in 2017. We knew our models were good, and we knew that was plenty in them. But the first thing that struck me whenever I took our first project into VR, having had about 10 years experience of actual sites, was actually how empty the model was. It was just empty. It's hard to explain. All of the pipes and ducts were just floating in the air, and there was no bracketry or clips. Or my first instinct as a experienced engineer is, this isn't the full picture. This isn't right. So that almost sparked an idea in my mind that prefabrication was a thing in K&M, but it was very, very small. And it almost made me think, well, if we can get this exactly right in the model, then we can just build it like a big Lego set. There'll be no... We were suffering quite a lot at that stage with criticism of the BIM model, and rightly so. The operations guys on the ground were really struggling to make the things fit, for that very reason, that we didn't give enough consideration to all of the brackets and hangers and clips, and no one in the industry at that stage was even considering it either. It wasn't like we were an outlier and we weren't doing it. No one in the industry was putting that amount of detail into a BIM model, and to be honest, it was actually frowned upon at that stage because of the taxing it does on the system and the amount of objects to render. It was actually frowned upon. People look at me like, "Are you, you're not doing it the way it should be done," but that's never ever stopped me before. So at that stage, it was very much exploratory, and it was around about that time that the Claridge's hotel project sort of landed in our lap. For context for the listeners, the Claridge's hotel is a hotel in the centre of London. It's a hugely prestigious hotel. It would welcome dignitaries from all around the world, royalties. If anyone comes to England to meet His Majesty the King or the late Queen, it's Claridge's that they would stay in. It's that reputation of a hotel. And we were asked to look at prefabricating all of the basement services. They had constructed a 6-story concrete substructure below the hotel whilst it remained open and trading, which was a phenomenal project to be involved in. But the complexities and the logistics of the job meant that absolutely every piece of it needed to be prefabricated. We had because it was 6 stories underground and there was no real ventilation, there was only one main shaft that was the main access egress route for all of the materials, everything going out and everything coming in. There was no hot works in those environments. There was no welding, there was no grinding, no cutting. Everything had to come to site and fit exactly perfectly. And at that stage, we were very much still using other technologies. All of our prefabrication was done in AutoCAD outside of the Revit environment. And that in itself had its own problems because of sort of design lag and things not marrying up together. And also the huge complexity of that B5 level. There was pipework up to 10, 12 inches in diameter. And I think there ended up being around about 11 kilometers of pipework alone in the whole building. So the sheer complexity of that meant that we had to drop AutoCAD completely. We couldn't work on two systems simultaneously. I had to do a lot of preparatory work to bring all of our prefabrication staff into the Revit environment, train them how to use Revit. Always proved to the prefabrication director at the time that Revit was capable of producing content that was, how would you say, accurate enough to be fabricated. A lot of problems with Revit, for example, Revit pipework can have the wrong radius of bends. So when you're trying to prefabricate, pipe sections that are 10-inch diameter, even being 5 millimeters out is a problem. Do you know what I mean? You have to be spot on. So it was almost like the planets aligned at that time for me. I was already looking at XR, this amazing project landed in our lap, and I really just pushed the directors of the company to invest in the XR technology. It was a fight, don't get me wrong. My director, Martin, kind of shrugged me off on the first outset when I talked to him about this new VR technology. He laughed at it and said, "Oh, you're wasting my time with games. We're not in here to play games. We're here to do business." He kind of thought he didn't understand at the time the concept. So I brought my own computer into the office on a Friday and got one of my colleagues, Shay, to bring his computer in, and I got another license sorted out from Prospect. And on the Friday afternoon, when everyone went home and I knew the two directors, Martin and his brother John, were on their own, I asked them to come down and they got it. And the two guys came into the room and we had the two VR headsets set up looking away from each other. And I asked the two guys to slip their headsets on and turn around. And the both of them turned around and seen each other in the model. And then you could just see them looking all around. And the instant reaction was, "Oh my God, wow, what is this?" Those two guys were time-served plumbers. You know what I mean? They're not technological guys. They're not bin guys, but they're site guys. They're used to spending a lot of time on site. So that just, the BIM model was this strange creature that I looked after up to that point. And once the VR system came in, it brought everyone into the digital model. Everybody wanted to see the BIM model. Everybody wanted access. And because this XR system works remotely, it meant that all of our stakeholders that are all across the different offices across the UK were then able to meet virtually in the model. And it was just game changing. It was almost a catalyst for all of the succeeding technologies that we have brought in from that. It really shone a light on the BIM model and made it the central focus of the company. We build the building twice, really. We build it digitally once, and then we rehearse it in the digital sense and sequence it and prefabricate it, and then we manufacture and assemble on site for real in a planned sequence. You know what I mean? So it was the catalyst. The XR really started all of the technologies that we've brought in. So there's so many digital tools that I've implemented and innovated in Kane's. The point cloud reality capture system. We use a precision setting out system, which is unique to us. There's no one else in the world who uses the system that I've developed for precision setting out using total station technology and GIS. So we're using all of the digital tools now that are available on the market, such as AR, XR, AI is the latest thing that we're also looking at. So it already started back in 2017 with the Claridge project. It really did.
Amazing. Very impressive. And I know BBC also highlighted this project, and it was a big deal. And considering the complexity level, it is really impressive that everything went the way it did. And
Yeah, and you have to remember, we were implementing all of these technologies live as we were going. I didn't have 2 years before the project started to get all this going. This was almost all live reacting. It was, does this work? Yes, get it in, see how it works. We were flying by the seat of our pants at that stage with all these technologies, and it was amazing at the time. It was very fast paced, and it was successful. We sort of, I have a methodology for DFMA, and I call it the three-legged stool. I conceptualized BIM and digital construction as a stool with 3 legs, and there's 3 important legs. Each are as important as the other. If there's one leg disappears, the stool falls over. The first leg is to use reality capture technology to remove building tolerance. So in the case of the Claridge's hotel, the concrete substructure had been completed when we were asked to look at it. And all of our design team are in Northern Ireland in Banbridge across the Irish Sea. We can't just jump in the car and drive to site to review it or take measurements. But even at that, human measurement has its flaws as well. It has its problems and there can be mistakes. And so I sought to remove all of the human aspect. And that was the first thing that I did was contacted Leica and said, right, point cloud capture technology, how does it work? So we took that apart and we did that. So we went in and reality captured the entire concrete substructure. And we paid an external company to produce a BIM model from the scan data, which was millimeter accurate. So you could see all of the bends in the walls and the columns that were slightly off plumb and the ripples in the floor. So when we prefabricated all of our stuff, there was absolutely no surprises when it came to site. We knew exactly what was there awaiting us when we arrived. And it gave the technicians the ability to virtually walk the site from a remote location. So it was phenomenally groundbreaking at the time. So that's leg 1. Leg 2 is the digital model itself. It has to be hyper granular, as I call it, which is a term I stole off a Daga man on LinkedIn. He's a good guy. The model has to have everything. Back to my first original comment when I first tried the XR. If there's gaps in the model, it's useless. You can't leave anything up to decision on site. If the goal is a streamlined installation on site, you can't have the technician or the operations guys on site second guessing anything. They can't be starting scratching their heads. They need to know exactly what's coming, how it's going to go in, and in what sequence for a speedy install. So that's number 2, the BIM model. We spent about a year getting in, mastering rapid fabrication services and drawing and custom modeling all of the ancillary items, as I call them. So pipe clips, slide guides, uni-strut bracket hangers, right down to even the earthen bonds on the tray. Absolutely everything is modeled, and a consequence of that is digital takeoffs. That was something that didn't even envisage at the time. If everything is in the model and it's there in a digital sense, it can be very quickly and accurately taken off. So digital bill of quantities and material takeoffs appear almost by itself as a consequence of that, which was fantastic. But then the third leg of the study was, how do we actually ensure that this goes in as accurate as we need it to be? We have the amount of accuracy spent on the other 2 legs of the stool is immense. It's all about accuracy. So we can't have guys stand on site measuring with slack tape measures and being 5 mil out, 10 mil out here. So we looked out to the industry to see how are things actually precisely set out. And we looked at the steel industry, for example, because obviously your stanchions and your beams and columns have to be set out with millimeter accuracy, or else the building doesn't go together quite well. So I reached out again to my contacts at Leica and said to them, what is the solution? And they recommended the Leica Icon system, which is a topography laser setting out machine. It works on a system that you pull the CAD file into your pad and you can stake out individual points. So you can click on a part of the drawing and the machine will react and point the laser at the exact spot in the real world as where you've chose on the pad. And we took that system and we reverse engineered it. And I said, well, I don't want the user to be standing on site and choosing individual points, because that in itself can be wrong. Again, they can click the wrong point, they can forget a point. So we actually reverse engineered the whole system to create a coordinate family point that we can place into the digital model. And that captures its GIS coordinate, northing and easting and elevation, that can be fed over through the cloud to the topography station to set that point out to millimeter accuracy. So as an example for Claridge's, we were designing all of the high level pipework inside these big steel frames as one big unit. And these frames had 6 fixing points that had to be sort of marked out. And even at the time taken, if we had fabricated the item, the lateral, and brought it to site, we would have had to stand and measure all of the fixing points and transfer that to the underside of the slab, which would have took a lot of time. And then the anchors themselves were resin set, so they required time to set. And then you actually had to do a pull test, a load test on it to make sure that it was going to hang, because some of these frames weigh up to a ton. So just for safety reasons, it had to happen. So we brought the laser satellite system in, and we used it on the first few lateral frames to pinpoint the exact center points of all the fixings. And we just did a dry run and said, well, go for it. We'll see what happens. We brought the guys in and they set these 12 points out. We set the resin anchors and did the pull test maybe a week before the lateral arrived. And it meant that when the lateral arrived, it was literally dropped down the shaft, brought across to the position and hoisted straight up and fixed to the site. So where we envisaged it might take 3 or 4 hours per lateral to do the measurement transfer, it was done in 10 minutes. You know what I mean? It was a phenomenal success. So the laser satellite system was another big advancement, and we've rolled that out across all projects now. We actually use that system now to use a color-coded system. So when we go in, say, a residential floor plate, we will mark out all of the high-level services, fixing points, and routes of services, so that the guys on the ground can install pretty much 75% of the first fix without a single wall being in place. There's no datums to measure from. We're not measuring from chippy's walls. It might be 5 or 10 mil out here or there. We are as accurate as we can be, you know what I mean, from the first go. So that forms the 3 legs of the stool for me. It has to be remove building tolerance. Your model has to be absolutely perfect, and you have to remove the human element of measurement out of the sites.
Amazing. This is really impressive. And it is so great that you have something nobody else in the world has, and you are applying it to your projects, and you see those fantastic results as well. Thank you for sharing, Gary. Could you share some examples of how AI is being used in your workflows, and what specific tasks does it streamline or improve? And what impact does this have on project timelines and outcomes? Coming back to that topic of efficiency and future orientation.
Yeah, well, it's very still about early days for us with the AI. I've been doing a lot of research and development into it. We really haven't applied it too many places, but where I see it having the biggest impact is for the likes of, there's several key areas that I've identified in the business. Our designers work with huge amounts of data, specifications, documents that run into hundreds and hundreds of pages, and extracting data from those can be quite tedious at times. You expect the designer to sit and read a 700-page specification. It's not going to happen. Do you know what I mean? And that's a problem, that things get missed. So we've looked at AI systems that will ingest PDF documents and provide consolidated summaries, or give the ability to a natural language, like ChatGPT type interface, where you can ask the AI system a question about the document, and it will find the answer in a second and give you the actual page reference and highlight where it is in the document. Whereas it might take someone even 20 minutes, to be realistic, to browse through a 700-page document and try and find what they're looking for. If you do that 5 times, 10 times in a month, and the savings in time are immense. So that's the sort of one aspect of AI. We're using it as a assistant for technical documents. Another one that I'm looking into is for automatic drawing recognition and checking. So at the moment, we have a decent team squad of document controllers. And as I said in our previous podcast, there is an insane amount of documents that go through Kane Group in a week. There can be 500 plus drawings produced by our team, and easily 500 to 1,000 technical documents in support of those drawings. So our document control team have to manually check all of them for spelling mistakes, even the file naming convention. For example, we work the ISO 19650, so all of your documentation has to be named in a certain way and have certain data fields. So the checking of a document can be quite cumbersome at times between its own name and format. So I see AI being a huge tool for our document control team to let them increase their output rather than replace anyone. Certainly not. I'm hoping this will be a tool for them to automatically check documents and give them a concise answer that will then help them process much more documents in a week. Health and safety is another one we're looking at. I recently seen an AI there that if you simply walk around the building site taking a video, and then you feed the video into the AI will find all of the problems on site. It will see all of the issues. It will see danger. It will make comments on the video. So, and it'll watch the video in 30 seconds and provide you with an Excel table of a numbered list of sequence with actual photographs captured from the video as thumbnails to say, well, look, this guy, he's far too, there's no barrier on this opening, you know, you've got cables suspended here that a digger could hit. It was a phenomenal system that I've seen. So that's another thing that we're kind of tentatively looking at, how AI can help us on site inspections, both for health and safety and QA, for example. If we have someone walking with the camera on the site, the AI will be able to do almost like a takeoff for us and give us like a project report update. According to the program, you should have this much ductwork installed, but according to your video, you've only got around about this much installed. It's phenomenal. You know, it's going to revolutionize how all aspects of construction are done in reality. But I really do hope that the focus is that this AI is just another tool in the tool belt for people and not a replacement for people. That would be the absolute worst thing, in my opinion, could happen. I don't ever see AI replacing a person. I would only ever want to see, it's like to say AI will not take your job, but someone using AI definitely will.
That's true. And what you are sharing, it is absolutely amazing. It's hard to grasp the level of those technologies and how they are introduced in our life, in our processes, and how they are going to develop and evolve within the coming years as well.
Yeah, I mean, for 20 years, I have watched technology accelerate to massive heights. And really, at the start, when we started, that was the problem. The computers weren't fast enough. They weren't fast enough to render. They weren't fast enough to do real-time lighting. You know, now, 20 years later, we have hardware and software that is capable of absolutely amazing things. And the bottleneck now is actually how quickly the person can use the computer. So if I asked one of my BIM technicians to pull me out a schedule from the model, how many flanges, for example, are on the floor, that could take them maybe half an hour to go into the software, generate a schedule, filter it, give me the output. The AI now becomes a natural, you know, it relieves that bottleneck now. It's a natural interface to the computer. Instead of typing, you can just speak to the computer and ask it a question, and it can go and do it in 10 times the speed, 100 times the speed that a human ever could. So I think the big thing for AI is now that it's going to eradicate the bottleneck of human interaction with the computer, which is the last frontier now, really, I think.
That's true. But doesn't it also reduce the headcount needed in order to perform the same tasks?
If you're cynical, yes, I would believe so. If you have that mindset of replacing people, that'll be all that you see. But for me, I look at it from perspective of output. I can get 2 times or 3 times the output of that person. I'll just let us do more work. You know, Kane's have grew exponentially over the last 20 years, and the amount of people that have worked in Kane's. I mean, when I started in Kane's, there was maybe only about 10 or 15 of us, and now we have 250. And that's a sort of linear graph. As the amount of projects we're involved in increased, we needed more people, but there's a cap to that. You know, there's a point where you can't just keep employing people and doubling your footfall and your amount of people for many reasons. Obviously, you know, there comes a point where efficiency is the driver and efficiency is the key, where you want the people, we want to develop our staff and we want to, you know, develop them and make them better at their role. And I would always encourage anyone, if I am looking at AI, don't be worrying. I'm not looking to replace you. This is just another tool for your belt. This is how this is going to make you better and faster and quicker and have better output and less errors. For example, you know, a lot of that is good because people, when you're working on projects that are multi millions of pounds, there's a lot of pressure on you. There's a lot of sort of stress and am I doing the right thing? have I made mistakes? Quite a lot of people spend a lot of time checking their own work, almost because they're scared of making a mistake or they're scared of costing the company money. So if we can remove that worry and that there's a system floating over the top of us, which is almost watching us for mistakes and correcting them as we go, that will help people's confidence and help them push forward and work better and work faster.
I absolutely love that perspective, and it is so important that we've got a chance to highlight that as well, because that is exactly the future as we want it to see. How do AI and XR complement each other in BIM and VDC? For example, does AI-driven data or predictive analytics feed into the extended reality experience, making it even more precise?
Hard to say. I haven't really seen AI and XR cross paths yet, but obviously they will at some stage. I think AI will be really good at data management and BIM models. At the moment, it's rubbish in, rubbish out. Quite a lot of models have redundant data, useless data. So all of that metadata is available in XR. If I'm in an XR environment and I click on a particular element, it will show me all of the metadata that's involved. But if 80% of it's garbage, I don't really want to see it either. Do you know what I mean? So I'm hoping that AI will help us curate our models and enter data. At the minute, data is killing us. It's all manual entry. It's all manual seeking and searching. If one of my clinicians doesn't have the information for a particular element at a time, they will go and draw a square box or something, a placeholder in place, and that does the business for them at the time, producing their 2D drawings and stuff. But later in the project, when it comes time to look at the data that's appended, I'm left with a model full of boxes that I don't even know what they are. So I have dreams that an AI will be able to come in and read a schedule of equipment and go and find them all and correct them and add the data automatically. And then that will flow through to the XR experience. I'm good friends with Gabe Paez, who is the head of XR at Autodesk. I torture that man. I really do. I'm in his ear every week, giving him ideas. But on one of our most recent podcasts we did together, I sort of challenged him to say that when I am in XR and I'm in an XR experience, I would like to see a digital assistant in the model with me, almost like an avatar, which is the AI itself, that I can have a natural conversation with in the XR experience, who would give me the answer. So again, why am I clicking on an object and reading words on a tablet, a virtual tablet in my hand? Could there not be an avatar of a man or a lady standing there to speak to ask, how many meters of paper on this floor? And they just speak back to you and answer you. Can you give me that in a report? Yes, the PDF report is now saved to your headset. Can you share that for me? Send it to this email. Here you go. That's now sent. So I see AI integration into XR possibly a few years down the line now, but it's like the Iron Man films where he has the Jeeves in his headset talking to him, who can do things for him. That's kind of what I want to see in the future XR experiences for construction. There's absolutely the capability and the technology is there today. We could probably do it today if anyone would bother to go and try it. But I think that definitely is how AI and XR will merge together.
Amazing. It is so incredible how it's going to change the landscape and make your job both easier and more enjoyable as well. We've been talking so much about opportunities and latest technologies and all the bright things we have on the horizon. But what were some of the biggest challenges Kane Group faced in adopting these technologies? How did you overcome them? And what advice would you give other companies looking to implement AI and XR in their own BIM and VDC processes?
Um, there was a lot of the technologies that I've implemented over the years weren't sort of accepted lightly, should we say. It wasn't easy sailing. I did face quite a lot of resistance internally from people, cynicism, people doubting that the system can do what it did. So I actively I'm the kind of guy that will go and do. You know what I mean? I don't sit on my seat and posturize. I will physically go and prove my point. So much like the XR experience where I told you that I literally had to bring my computer in and put the headset on the director to force him to look at it. I've kind of had that brash attitude with everything. You know, I will go and speak to the technology developers. I will get access to the system. I will take it apart and look at it. I will show everyone in the company how it works in its simple layman's terms. And it always has to be in context of reality. You know, I've had so many technology people across the world come to me trying to sell me solutions for X, Y, and Z. And what I say to them all is, you need to come to one of our sites and show us this working on a Kane site with a Kane model, with Kane processes. That's the only way that the people in this company will understand it and take it on. There's no point showing me a building that's on the other side of the world that has absolutely no context to anyone involved. It has to be familiar, especially if it's a new concept. If you show someone a new concept on a completely unfamiliar setting or scene or model, it doesn't have the same impact as to perhaps a job that someone has been on for 3 or 4 months already and are invested and they know the job and they can see the problems on site and they can see where they're struggling. If I come on the site with a new technology or a new process and show them it actually physically working, it's an automatic yes. You know, it's yes, let's go, let's take this on. And I've just been very fortunate. Obviously, I know that not every company can do that. I've been extremely fortunate with the directors at Kane, the McMullen brothers, who have had faith in me over these last 13 years to sort of go with the ideas that I have. Now, again, it's not been an automatic yes every time. There's been a proven process each time, but at the same time, they're happy for me to spend time looking at these things. It's not all during work hours. Quite a lot of the research and development I do is outside of work. You know, I do quite a lot of working in the evenings and weekends, just researching and developing, partly because, you know, I have a genuine interest in these things and it actually does interest me and excite me, but also because I have that drive and that focus to lead. You know what I mean? I don't want to follow anyone. I've never been a follower. I've always been a leader in every aspect of my life. Always kind of a bit of a show off, but it's just it's how I am. I can't change how I am internally. You know what I mean? That's what it is. So you need someone like me in a company to drive this with that same level of passion and focus and willingness to go above and beyond what's required.
I admire your approach and the type of personality you are sharing with your company. I'm myself like that, so it's always 24/7. Just because you like what you're doing and you can't follow, you need to be that trailblazer to run 5 miles forward, bring the new solutions, and see how they can fit into a company and create new processes and update everything and upgrade your people. So, of course, it requires a lot of engagement, dedication, and passion. And I really have a lot of respect to those leaders who are like that. So it's amazing that you are like that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Gary, looking ahead, what role do you see AI and XR playing in the future of construction? Are there emerging trends or innovations that Kane Group is excited to explore next?
Yeah, the most recent technology that we've looked at in the last sort of 6 months was augmented reality, which is kind of the next step in the XR family. Obviously, virtual reality is when you're totally in the model and there's no, you know, you're in whatever virtual model that you're in. Augmented reality uses it's known as a few different things. There's mixed reality and there's augmented reality, which are kind of one and the two same things. Mixed reality is achieved by overlaying a digital virtual model on top of a actual real world video stream or even onto a holographic heads-up display that's placed in front of the user's eyes. And what it does is it mixes both worlds together. It mixes the virtual world and the real world into one system. So we demoed Gamma AR, which is one of the leading AR solutions on the market, has massive BIM integrations with Autodesk, which work really well for our workflows. And we took it to one of our London sites there recently, Woodworth, where the basement was pretty much all prefabricated. And when I went on the site and took one of the iPads and calibrated myself in one corner, I was absolutely blown away by how close the actual install was to the real, the digital model. Excuse me. Now that's a combination of a lot of things. It's the three-legged stool as I talked about. I would expect nothing less with the system that we put in place. The building was scanned, we prefabricated all of it, and it was put into the laser satellite system. But when I stood on site with the AR tablet and I looked at all of the stuff together, it was almost a bit overwhelming, because it was a culmination of probably 15 years work of me, of research, development, building the system, meeting all the people, understanding all the technologies, bringing all these things together, training all the staff. It was a eureka moment that this is the way, this is right, what we're doing is exactly right. And it's phenomenal technology in itself. It can be used for so many different things: verification of built services, pre-construction considerations of empty spaces, QA checking of installed works by ourselves and others, for example. So it's a really exciting technology that's sort of emerging. And at the moment, it's all being done on tablets, for example, or phones. And the next step that I see is for people to actually put a mixed reality headset on, like a Apple Vision Pro or a Quest 3, and to actually be walking around the site, inspecting the site through a mixed reality device. There's other problems with that. Can you imagine anyone walking around a building site with a VR headset on? There's inherent risks and danger with that. It would fall off things. But what I've seen in my plans with the technologies is that these headsets are constantly scanning and tracking your outside space. So it would be very easy for an AI system to be much like the health and safety video that I spoke about just recently there, earlier on. That headset could be scanning your surroundings in 360 degrees and warning the user in their headset, be careful, you're getting very close to an opening there. Be careful, there's a machinery moving behind you. Watch out, there's no services here, you might bang your head, things like that. I think that will remove the barrier to that technology making its way onto the building site. And what that will do is the augmented reality experience on site is phenomenal, because when demoing the Trimble XR10, we were able to do a Teams call to someone in the office, and I was able to pin that chat to the wall. And then I was able to ask the person on the other side to look at the video stream from my headset, and they were able to see exactly what I was seeing on site. So the possibilities for that are endless. If people are struggling with installations or commissioning, it's very easy to Teams call someone live from site and get them to see exactly what you're looking at and give you the solution. So it's all about efficiency. It's all about, speeding everything up again. That's my prediction for the future, is AI will be doing sort of mixed reality headsets. And if you want to extrapolate even further, robotics would be the next big thing. Do you know what I mean? Robotics. We're already seeing robotics on site. We're using robotic total stations at the moment for our precision setting out. That machine is a robot in itself. It'll point the laser wherever you want it to go. We've also seen the autonomous reality capture things from Leica, like the Boston Dynamics Spot the Dog that has a scanner on his back. And that wee guy walks the site every day and stops in the positions that he needs to stop in to scan the site. And if there's obstacles, he's able to make his way around the obstacles, and he can climb stairs, and and that dog will do that every day until the job is done with no input from anyone. It'll walk itself back to its charging station and charge itself and transfer the data to the server automatically. So robotics for me will be a big thing. Maybe in 20 years' time, we've seen the robotics coming out from Tesla. You've seen the recent sort of Tesla robot there that was starting making drinks for people at this party. We are there. We're very close to being there. I say 20 years. It could be 10 years. It could be 5 years. Who knows? But I've already seen videos online of robots building walls, for example, and putting plasterboard on the walls. I do it so much faster than a human could do. So that side, I don't know how I would feel about that, because I'm a humanist more than anything. I don't want to see 50 robots on a site and one guy looking after them all. I'd rather see each person have a robot companion or something. So whilst I'm excited about it, I'm a bit cautious about it too at the same time.
The future is bright, but it is important to be realistic and see that it depends on us as well, on our choices, how we apply those technologies, and how it's going to develop in the future, and what we're going to get out of it.
Yes.
What do you think about the singularity?
Yeah, scary thought, general superintelligence is something that can go either way. I'm a big fan of Elon Musk, and I watch a lot of his podcasts and his interviews, and that's he's probably one of the leading experts in the world in AI, and he's very sort of cautious about how it's going to work. We've all watched Terminator. We've all seen Skynet. There is a real possibility. There is, as I think Elon said, there's probably 10 or 20% chance that AI could go bad. Everything that we live in, the whole world is digitally connected nowadays. It would be very easy for an AI to start turning off power stations and opening dams and doing real bad things. If someone can control the AI and make it bad, it could be bad, but there needs to be checks and balances put in place to mitigate those risks. I think it's worthwhile pursuing these things, even though there is a risk attached. I think benefit to humanity far outweighs the risk at the moment, and I would sort of agree with Elon, but certainly is a scary thought, especially for a kid that grew up in the 80s. You know what I mean? I remember growing up watching Knight Rider with David Hasselhoff, and he had a talking car, and I thought it was the most space age thing, and here we are in 2024, and we all have Alexas in the house, and we all have cars that can talk to us. It's scary how quickly this came. I honestly didn't think I would see it in my lifetime. I thought maybe my children or my grandchildren would see that sort of technology, but it has arrived very, very quickly. And the rapid pace of advancements in AI over the last 5 years has also been quite scary, especially for the videos that we're now starting to see. Deepfake videos is concerning. Misinformation, disinformation, that kind of thing is a problem which needs to be ironed out pretty quickly too. We've seen AI lying as well. That's another problem. Whoever makes these AIs, I can't lie. Truth is an absolute importance in an AI. And in this world that we live in today, the AI we have to have trust in the AI that is telling us the right thing.
I agree. And it is amazing that we can highlight both potential advantages and disadvantages, and still we do all we can to introduce those technologies, develop them, apply them for the better of humanity, and the use cases and projects for the future you have at Kane Group. They are absolutely mind-blowing, and it would be impossible to introduce them without that technological development. So I'm so grateful to have you here today, and I'm really impressed by all the stories you shared. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and your insights with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for joining us on Digital Transformation and AI for Humans. I am Amy, and it was enriching to share this time with you. Remember, the core of any transformation lies in our human nature, how we think, feel, and connect with others. It is about enhancing our emotional intelligence, embracing a winning mindset, and leading with empathy and insight. Subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes where we uncover the latest trends in digital business and explore the human side of technology and leadership. Until next time, keep nurturing your mind, fostering your connections, and leading with heart.